Hey everybody, I'm Bob Baker with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here with the maestro, Ted Ludwig. And we had an idea that we wanted to talk to you about some of these amazing guitars that we saw at the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival. If you were there, you know what we're talking about. If you weren't, please plan to go next year. It was unbelievably incredible. Before we go any further, I would like to remind you to please subscribe. You know, it's easy, it's free. Like, share, follow, encourage your friends to subscribe. If you have a business and you'd like to advertise with us, we would love that too. Nobody's driving a new Ferrari based on what we're making here at Jazz Guitar Today. It's pretty much a labor of love, but there are some real financial costs in doing it, and we appreciate all the support that you can give us. So anyway, with that being said, let's dive in. So Ted,
Yes,
we were out in Arvada, Colorado with some of the finest luthiers in the world anywhere. And
absolutely.
you came to me with this idea of, hey, let's talk about some of the guitars that we saw, that you saw specifically, and that you wanted to give us a little tour of, some of your favorites. Is that a fair depiction?
Yes. Like again, this is just I had a little bit of time. As being an artist there, you don't get much time. They keep us pretty busy. Going to do performances.
So we were in Arvada, Colorado, and
Yeah.
with some of the finest luthiers in the world, and saw some amazing and played some amazing guitars. And you know, I'm curious of a player with your abilities. You more than anybody that I know have relationships with like every luthier. They all know you, and and they respect
Quite
you.
a few.
Yeah, lots. I mean, lots.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, before we go any further, I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank Peter Henriksen and all of his hard work for putting all of this together, because without him, we wouldn't have this amazing festival. So, but let me jump into some of the guitars I did get a
Here.
chance to
Yeah.
try out, and again, these were just some that really stuck out to me. Of course, with all of these instruments, it's a matter of personal taste. It's like wine. We all don't like the same wine. So, but these are some of the ones that really stuck out to me, and they're in no particular order because I liked all of these guitars. So the first one I want to talk about was something that I was very pleasantly surprised with. It was a non-cutaway guitar by Benedetto. It was the Benedetto Americana non-cutaway. They made three of these to commemorate, I believe, 50 years or maybe it was the life of Lloyd Loar. I don't think it was a 50-year thing. I think it was a 100-year thing, the life of Lloyd Loar, centennial.
Right.
And so I played that guitar. It was Americana, so it was all carved woods, had a built-in pickup, and it has some just really beautiful inlays on it. And I have to tell you, I was absolutely floored with that guitar. I sat and played it electronically. I played it acoustically, and it was just really something special. It had a beautiful balanced tone, which was something that I look for. Is the balance between the strings was really great. And it just had a really full, thick sound. A great gigging instrument. Of course, for me personally, I prefer cutaway, but I was really surprised at the accessibility into the upper range with the non-cutaway that they produced. Very, very blown away by that guitar. They also had a guitar that what Howard Paul showed me. It was Howard and Dave Miner showed me a guitar that was a distressed instrument. This is a different guitar. That was built, I think Bob Benedetto made it himself. It was very, very beautiful instrument as well. But as a player, that Americana really stood out to me. I was very, very floored with that instrument.
I got a chance to play it. I totally agree with you. It was special. I got a
Hmm.
thing about non-cutaway guitars. I prefer the looks of a cutaway guitar because that's what we kind of all grew up with, being a little bit more rock and roll, if you will. But the tone of a non-cutaway guitar, they're that extra bit of real estate, makes a difference in the way those things sounded. I thought it was phenomenal. It was beautifully executed. I mean, it was a flawless instrument from what I could see. It was great. Loved
It really was. And
very
I tell
balanced.
you,
And I did play that fifth. I think that's the 50th anniversary is the guitar that you're referring to. And that was my favorite guitar at the show.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely up high on my list as
yeah,
well.
I love, and we'll try to get a photograph of that. But I think that was the 50th anniversary. That falls into that is Dave's private instrument. It was absolutely, like I said, that was if someone said you can take anything you want home, but you can't sell it, so you had to actually keep it and play. Like some of these guitars are cost unbelievable amounts of money,
Sure, of
even though that
course.
one was very expensive. But you have to play this thing. This is that was my guitar. That I loved that guitar.
Yeah,
Very, very cool.
that was those both of those instruments are really special.
Well, I love your first choice. I love your
So,
first choice.
my well, and of course, like I said, these are in no particular order
Yeah,
because
I
I like
understand.
all these instruments
No, but I mean,
for different.
I love that choice though. That's a great choice.
The second, I mean, well, the second instrument I wanted to talk about, there was a guitar that Steve Wagner, who owns finearchtops.com, and I know you guys know each other pretty well. He had a guitar that was by Theo Scharpach, the great master luthier from the Netherlands. And Theo had a guitar. It was a guitar that was built for Steve called the Contact Imperial, and it was an absolutely stunning guitar. And you'll see in the pictures it had modern sound holes, kind of very D'Acquisto, sort of inspired. Um, Really beautiful tone. I really loved the balance, but it had a really nice mid tone from each string. Had a nice thick, warm, round sound. I was very impressed with that instrument. I believe it was a 16-inch instrument. It was kind of a little smaller, but it really sounded great. Um, and I actually recorded a little bit on it that Steve has actually put onto social media, some recordings of me playing that guitar, and very impressed. And of course, anything that I've ever tried from Theo Scharpach has just been, just above and beyond.
Well, I'm gonna chime in with my impressions of it. I played the guitar. It was stunning. The craftsmanship and the amount of attention to detail and unique features were amazing. All the sound holes, the way that I don't know how much engineering he put into that, or if he took into account the physics of it, but man, what was it? That was a balanced instrument. Wow.
So balanced, and the materials were just so like he does not spare any expense on materials. The materials are just like I mean, it's like fine jewelry, the level of materials that he uses on his guitars.
Yeah,
I know like some of the tops that these are tops that are over 100 years old that he's acquired over his I would imagine 40 to 50-year career in building.
yeah. I thought that was a spectacular. It was a stunning guitar. I'm looking at a picture of it. I've got it completely blown up on my big. I mean, the sides that he used are just
Yeah,
crazy flame, but not too crazy, if that makes any sense to you at all. And
yeah, absolutely.
his finish work was just, it's a blonde guitar, but it was a blonde that had a lot of antique quality to it without being over the top, faux this, faux that. It was just a stunning, stunning instrument. Sounded great, looked great, build quality was
The tailpiece is very special too.
yeah.
It kind of had that old sort of almost like something that you'd see on the front of like an old really cool like car, like a Duesenberg or some kind of
Yeah,
like really
yeah,
cool
yeah.
old car. Like it was just a really spectacular guitar. There's nothing more I can say. But not only that, it played and sounded great.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't just a trailer queen, as they say in car parlance. It drove and it rode and drove fantastic, which is you
Mhm.
if you got the budget for it, that's a great gigging guitar because it played great, it sounded great, it was very balanced. I'm sure you wouldn't have big feedback problems out of it because it didn't seem to have any spikes in its response. I mean, I really like that guitar. Again,
I did too.
I'm taking the Benedetto home, but that was a high choice for sure.
Yeah, I really like that one myself. So yeah, I was very excited to play that guitar. So my next guitars that I wanted to talk a little bit about, of course, is, I mean, anything I've played from Danny Kaintop lately has just been really spectacular. To me, he's one of the guys that's the future of jazz guitar. He's the guy that's, when the next sort of generation of makers are at the top, he's going to be, him and Wyatt Wilkie and a couple of other ones are going to be at the top of that. And so I played two of his instruments. He had two at the show. And one of them, I believe they were both 17 inches, which he calls the Chicagoan guitar. His 17 inch is called Chicagoan, and his 16-inch guitar is called the Blue Line. And actually, one of the guitars that I played, the one that you'll see in the picture, is owned by a friend of mine who lives up in Northwest Arkansas, named Roby Pental. And I played Roby's. I really liked it. It's a pretty new instrument, so it's still getting broken in. But I will say, what I really like about Danny's guitars is the richness in the mid tones and in the bass. He gets just really beautiful bass and mid tones on his guitars. The highs, of course, are great as well. Really nice, bright, clear, punchy highs. A lot of overtones in the instrument. I find that his instruments have some overtones, a nice quality in the overtones. Not too much. So, but what I find with Danny's guitars is it would work well in a jazz bebop setting as well as a fingerstyle setting. So I find that that's a versatility that he has in his instruments that that are unique to him. And so, I think if I was looking for a very versatile instrument that could cross over a little bit, I think Danny Kaintop's really fit that bill.
This is of the three that we've looked at so far, this is the one that is the more everyday guitar in my eyes. In other words, the Benedetto is like an amazing instrument. It's the full body and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I would take it out and want to play it every night. I don't know that I would take the Scharpach. I'd take that out and play it. But I mean, this guitar is it's. I don't want to say it's a player, but even though it is, I mean, it's a beautiful example of an archtop guitar. I mean, it sounds right, it looks right, feels right, played really, really well. You could take this guitar and gig with it, and it's almost too pretty for that, but you could and be very, very comfortable on that guitar all day and all night. And I agree with you that he's definitely one of the guys, leading the charge. And just for people that aren't sure of these things, I mean, these guys, kind of build to order. If you tell them what you want, they're going to do it for you. They're going to.
Absolutely. In fact, in this picture that I sent, I actually contacted Danny and asked him to send me some pictures of that guitar. And these were pictures before he had actually put the pick guard or a pickup on it. Both of the guitars that I played had pickups, and they were both floating pickup instruments.
Yeah.
And of course, they had pick guards with the volume and tone hidden underneath the pick guard. And so. But these, you're absolutely right. These are gigging guitars. Like I would take Danny's guitar to gigs, in a heartbeat.
High-end gigs, I mean, the kind of gigs that you do.
Well, I mean, I go to gigs with this.
Yeah.
With this Manzer.
Yeah, the Manzer. Yeah, the
I go to gigs with that. Absolutely.
The unobtainium.
Yeah. So, and I take it to gigs all the time.
Right.
You know.
I hear you. But it's a beautiful instrument. It is really a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, so I mean, Danny, both guitars were really great. I mean, I mean, it was hard to sort of the one that Roby had was really special, and I really liked that guitar a lot. And I'm really excited to see some new things from Danny. You know, he's always every time I see him at a show, he's got something different, something a little
Yeah.
different. So
He's a
um,
really interesting guy for sure.
yes, he studied violin making in Chicago with Michael Darnton, and in fact, that's who of course, my wife's of a concert violinist, and
Mhm.
so we actually go to see Michael Darnton for all her work on her violins. So and Danny and I actually Danny made that connection for us, so that because Michael's one of the finest violin makers and violin luthiers in the world, and so he learned from Michael. So his instruments have that violin quality about them.
Yeah, I a lot of respect, man. He's beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful work. Absolutely gorgeous work. What's
So,
next?
well, what's the next one I want to talk about is Stephen Marchione.
Okay.
Now, Stephen Marchione's been around for a long time. He's built guitars for Mark Whitfield, for Mike Moreno,
Right.
some of the best players in the world. And I had a chance to try three instruments that he brought to the show, and in the pictures that I sent, you'll see
Right.
his booth with the three instruments. The one that I kind of really liked, I really like his modern soundhole guitars,
Right.
full arch tops. He did not have one of those at the show, although his semi-hollow body that he had there did have the modern soundholes.
Right.
But the one that's pictured is his modern model, which has it has traditional sound holes, but it's got more of his modern sort of style tailpiece and cutaway and such. But
Right.
his guitars are real players. I mean, they're just they're great gigging guitars. They sound amazing plugged in as well as acoustic. They're extremely balanced. I find his instruments remind me a little bit of Linda's in the balance that they have. The clarity across all the strings. But like I've never played a Marchione that didn't sound great. Like the playability is outstanding.
Yeah.
He has a really hot, like the break angle on the neck, and how the neck angle and the bridge, that's really interesting. It gives him quite a bit of distance from the string to the top of the guitar, which gives his guitar this drive and this punch that you don't get out of a lot of traditional arch tops,
Hmm.
because he's got some space there. And when I first saw that, I kind of wondered, well, is this going to hinder the sound? But it actually did the opposite. It made the sound bigger. And he's actually, I've played some of his like smaller arch tops that sound like a 17-inch guitar, like little 15-inch and 14-inch guitars that have a huge sound. His guitars are really outstanding. I really like his instruments. His semi-hollow is, in my opinion, his semi-hollow body guitar is probably the best on the market. One of the best. His and Tom Rebecki's are there too, but like as far as a semi-hollow body, man, his semi-hollow bodies are amazing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That the his more traditional style, could like the Whitfield model and all of that are, they're really, really good players, particularly for a guy that may be doing organ trio, but he needs a higher gain before feedback arch top, and
Yeah,
don't want to deal with that. Steven his instruments have a way of being, for arch top, full body arch top guitars and in almost full body arch top, they have a way of being very, very powerful instruments.
very.
Great stage guitars, really, really great. And they're made to, exacting luthier, high end luthier level, but great stage guitars. But I'm with you on the semi hollow is, there's only a couple of instruments out there that that I can think of that you know, that I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's an amazing. He's really figured out the voicing. You know how to,
Oh, absolutely.
and when you hear
His
Mike,
pickups, the pickups he uses are incredible. He's
yeah,
got, I'm not exactly sure who's doing these pickups. I know that Mike is using um, Tone Specific. It's a company called Tone
yeah,
Specific, and those sound absolutely incredible. I know Steven's putting those on his semi hollows, but his archtop pickups sound amazing too. And as a player, I mean, I'm going to play the guitar plugged in a lot,
oh yeah,
especially on
absolutely.
gigs. At home, I'm going to play it acoustic, but acoustically, his guitars sound good, and the playability is out of this world.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, out of
it's
this world
yeah,
playability is really. And another thing I really love about Steven's instruments is that they're simple as far as the trim. He's kind of gone for that sort of almost like what D'Acquisto was going for in the later part of his, the period of his building, where
yeah.
not too much bindings and inlays and all of those extra things, but just a good design, carved properly. Just a nice, simple binding. It's really what a player is looking for.
Less is
Very
less is more. Less
absolutely.
is more. And in the picture that we're going to show with this guitar of the semi hollow, he's got a really nice shade. I mean, the it's a shade top, if you will, and he does a really nice job with that finish. It looks really, really great. And he exposes his his bobbins, his the pickups do not have covers on them, so
Right.
they're humbuckers without covers, a la rock and roll, if you will. And I asked him about that. He said he said aesthetically he likes the aesthetic, but he also mentioned something about a little more overtone that he liked. But I agree with you. I think his instruments are in the category that he's after. He's the guy.
Yeah,
He's the guy.
his instruments are great, and
Yeah.
I really and his modern sound hole instruments. I like the sort of his on
Yeah.
his full arch top, but the modern sound hole thing. He didn't have one at the show, but
Yeah.
I really like that guitar a lot, and the play, like I said, the playability, the upper range accessibility.
Yeah.
You just get your hand in that area, and all
Well,
the notes are right there.
he's a rock player himself, and he that's the sensibility of being a rock player and wanting to get up there, that's important to him. And obviously, as a jazz player, you obviously take advantage of all of that, So yeah,
Hmm.
I agree with you. It's if you it's not a Les Paul, it's not a Strat, but if you like playing a Strat, but you want something with that tone and that stuff, I mean, that's the instrument, it just,
Yeah, he makes great solid bodies. He makes great semi-hollow bodies. He makes amazing arch tops. I mean, I've even played some of his, and I will have to say my father lives in Houston. So when I go visit my father, of course, Stephen is always very, very generous to invite me over to come
yeah,
try out some of his latest stuff. And so I've been to his shop in Houston and played like one or two of his nylon strings, which were
yeah,
fantastic. And I played like a steel string acoustic he did, which was amazing as well. So, I mean, there's
yeah.
really nothing he can't do as far as guitars.
I'm a big fan. He's a thinking man's, not that the other guys aren't thinking men, but, he's kind of a thinking man's luthier in terms of the kinds of things that, the players are going to be interested in. Roger
Absolutely.
Sadowski is another guy like that as well.
Hmm.
That just everything's born out of form follows function kind of thing.
And the necessity, because that's the thing.
Necessity, right?
It's like what the thing about, like I talk about, is the practicality of the guitar. If I'm
Yeah,
talking to a young maker and they're asking me, Ted, what do you think about this or that? And I'm like, man, make it practical. Like the
yeah,
volume and tone knobs need to be easily accessible. They need to
right.
work properly. The end pin, how you gonna, like the jack, and
Yeah,
how is the player gonna put a strap button? All of those kind of things that a lot of makers don't think about, or maybe they've don't think about it at first. These are things that players, you pick up the guitar, the functionality, the things that, we don't think about is what has to be there.
everybody focuses early. I find that a lot of guys focus on how did the guitar looks,
Yeah.
how's it look,
Yeah.
and it's, but they also, when there's a lot of that, there's a lot of very beautiful guitars, to look at that just don't quite, for my hands, just don't quite make it as something I want to pick up and play all the time. Gorgeous, they're gorgeous to look at.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Okay, so let me talk about, I have two more guitars that I really liked.
Right.
One was by a maker named Tim Frick, who is from San Francisco. And I really liked his guitar. I picked up his 16-inch. I played his 14-inch as well. He had a 14-inch and a 16-inch. The 16-inch is called the Oriole model. And
Make sure I've got the right one up here. I'm not sure which one that is, because I did not have any experience with this one. Yeah, all right, I'm looking at it.
And I really liked the guitar. It would to me it had a kind of a quality that I think would work really great for just like some chord melody, some chord solo. It might not be the perfect gigging guitar. Not that it couldn't be, because with the right pickup, I think it could be. But like this instrument, I thought would be like great for like some chord solos, some nice chord melody stuff. It was it had a real nice, rich clarity about the notes. It was not too trebly, but it had just like a nice balance in the mid range that I really liked. I don't like a guitar that's way too much mid range. So it really allowed for like nice, clear melody. So you can play the melody, then play the chord, and then everything comes out nice and clear without the chords overpowering the melody. It was a nice, sweet little guitar. I really liked it. I believe his sort of background was coming out of doing repair work, and so he did repair work in the San Francisco area. But his guitars are good, man. I like his guitars. Again,
it looks like a cedar top. Is this? Do you know if that's spruce or is it cedar?
I have to look at that. I'm trying to find that picture I sent.
And it's a mahogany body, or it certainly looks like mahogany.
Yes, that's what it looked like to me as well.
Yeah, there are some other woods that are showing up on the scene, and Dick Boak would be the guy to answer those questions. But
yeah, that
look like you think they're mahogany, but they're something else that looks like mahogany. But
I'm going to pull that picture up. Yeah, that looks like a cedar top one, but that's but the one I played had a spruce top, and it definitely had a mahogany back and sides.
Yeah.
The one
I like that combination.
And I like the way his guitars look. I like they have a nice balance about them. I like the F holes. They're clean. I like the way he does the top of his headstock is kind of unique. It's not just your traditional, name on the headstock. It just has the little F, it's kind of in the little rectangular shape that he's got there.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool guitar. And like I said, I mean, this guitar, I don't know if I would take this to like an organ trio gig, but that's not really what his purpose is. Although he does make them with built-in pickups, so they can function that same way in a louder type of situation with the built-in pickup. And I believe he probably braces and carves his tops a little differently for that, to be able to withstand, a little bit louder volumes. But really nice instrument, really great touch on the guitars. I felt like they were easy to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, I mean, he's a maker I kind of would like to see more from. I'd like to see some more of his work, because what I did try, I liked.
Yeah, I like the detail. Like he's got one of those he's got a sound hole cut in the upper bout, like that's very common. People, that's become a popular thing to do.
Yeah, the sound ports.
The sound ports, yeah, and he's got it beveled really pretty. I mean, he took a little extra time to make that, really finish it off nice. It's very clean. I mean, the instrument it's very clean. It doesn't look overly done, overly fancy.
Hmm.
I like it. Yeah, I unfortunately I didn't get a chance to play it, but I am noticing something about it that I do admire is that in the headstock, the way the string spacing is, the poles are pretty for that shape. I mean, the string poles are, fairly straight,
Hmm.
and that is an advantage in touch and everything. I think anyway. I could be wrong.
Well, and that has to do. It is an advantage, and it has to
Yeah,
do with the shape of his headstock.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
He's not flaring it out like
Right,
this, so it keeps a nice straight string, and that doesn't get hung up when you're trying to tune it, and so
right.
forth.
No, I like it very much.
That's a really good design. And he used a really interesting heel as well, and I included a picture of that. The heels on his guitars are different. They
Mhm.
have like the way that they're sort of sculpted, really, really interesting
I
and
saw
comfortable.
that. Yeah. It gives you a little extra hand movement back down, if you're up high.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
So yeah, Tim Frick, man, and now I haven't seen a lot of colors from him, but like again, his guitars, he's everything I've seen has just been the natural wood, and I think that's what he's trying to get out of his instruments.
Yeah, I sorry that I didn't get a chance to play it because that looked like something I would enjoy for sure.
And he's one of the a little bit more affordable makers. He's none of these guys are cheap, right? But but it would be he's for maybe a player that was looking for something that was a
We
little
haven't
more doable price wise.
we
His stuff.
we haven't talked about dollars at all. So
Yeah, no, we haven't. Well, I mean, and I'm trying not to.
yeah,
I
right.
can say I'll say this that the Benedetto Americana that I played was north of 20,000.
Oh,
The
oh,
cane
yeah.
tops, the cane top guitars are 24,000 each one of those. The Theo Scharpach Contact Imperial, which I really loved, that guitar was like 45,000. The Marchione guitars are north of 35,000, somewhere between 35 and 40,000. This Tim Frick guitar is like in the $10,000 to $12,000 range,
Right,
something like that. So it's a little bit more affordable.
right.
Um, Now the last luthier I want to talk about is a luthier that I have to say I was very, very, very impressed with. It was actually his first show. As a young man he's originally from British Columbia, but he moved to New York and he's building guitars all by himself. His name's Darcy Blake, and it's Darcy Guitars. He was there with four instruments, and I'm gonna tell you, man, they were great. They were players, man. I mean, a player could grab that guitar, take it to a gig, and it's going to perform. And it was really, really good instruments. He built one for his brother called the Figure Zero,
Hmm.
and it had a few extras aesthetically that made it a little bit more costly, but still, under $10,000. And I love his neck heel construction he did on it. He did like kind of a slanted neck heel
Yeah.
on the one he built for his brother, which was absolutely incredible. Um, and I tell you, for a young man that's only been building for a couple of years, this guy is going to be somebody to watch out for. He'll be, he'll be the next Danny Kane top or the next Wyatt Wilkie or that level of builder soon. And in fact, he's almost there. I mean, he just got to build more guitars. He needs to get more guitars out there.
Right.
And I've actually turned him on to the Archtop Foundation, and Ty and
Yeah.
just because like I was so impressed with his work. And of course, Ty was very interested to hear about what I thought, and
Right.
but this young man is really. I mean, I think that if he's going to get his guitars into the right player's hands, and I think that's a really wise move because he's going to be up there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I like the choice. I didn't play this instrument either. I'm sorry to say that he was pretty crazy busy for a lot of us that were out there.
Mhm.
But I did walk by it, and it caught my eye. I remember that, this really deep gold honey finish that I'm seeing on several of the builders using I like it a lot. And his
Yeah.
his finish work looks great. I do like it. I mean, the aesthetic is there. I didn't play it, but I'm going to take your word for it. Is that a
Yeah.
full 25.5-inch scale length? The neck looks a little short.
You
It's
know,
underground.
I think it was a 25-inch scale length, but I had because he had a couple of different ones, and so
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly. He mentioned it to me because he built one that was like I think it was 25,
Yeah.
which is the one I played. But I tell you, man, this guy's going to be the next thing, man. I
Well,
think he's going to I think he's going to get some collectors interested, but more importantly, I think he's going to have some guitars that players can actually get.
I like the way that the nut is not that far away from the body. I mean, the neck is deep in, fingerboard's deep into the body of the guitar.
Oh,
I'll tell you what I like about that. That's why one of the reasons I like EF 175s. It's like you're playing and your eye is like right here all the time. Or can you see how my
right,
eye is like right here all the time? 335, it's out here all the time because
right,
the neck starts at the end of of the body. And
right.
it's always like, it's almost like you got to telegraph your hand out there on that instrument as opposed to like a classical guitar. You're always kind of looking right at where your fingers are if you want to, it's a
Hmm.
comfortable place for your hand to be. So I like that about that instrument. It looks like it'd be easy to sit and play. And
The thing about this guitar, in my opinion, is his instruments are players' guitars.
yeah, I love that.
And I talked to a lot of other people who were very impressed. I mean, I think Jimmy Bruno tried his guitar. Jimmy was very impressed. Mason Razavi played one, and he said he really liked it.
Yeah.
A lot of different players I've mentioned. I said, "What did you think of the new guy?" Darcy, and he said they were all like, "Man, like they couldn't believe that he's only been building for like 3 years. He started building during the pandemic." So I know, and that's something.
He
And
probably
you
had
can
time.
see,
He probably had time on his hands and said, "Well, what can I do? I think I'm going to learn how to build archtop guitars." It's
well,
like,
the person that told me about him was Wyatt Wilkie himself. Wyatt called me and he says, Ted, when you go to the show, because Wyatt couldn't make it this year, but he told me, he says, I want you to check out Darcy's guitars. He goes, I think that guy's going to be the next cat, the next really great maker people are talking about. And like I said, he's young.
mm-hmm.
He's still got things to do. He's still got to get a bunch of guitars out there. It's just like as a player, the more gigs you do, the better you get.
Yeah,
You
right,
gig,
absolutely.
you gig, and for makers, for guitar makers, it's the same thing. You have to, they have to build and build and build and get instruments out there, work with players, learn what different players are looking for, because all of those different little subtleties, it just builds their repertoire of things that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, of course, there was a couple of things that I talked to him about, just being somebody that coming from the player's perspective. But I tell you, man, I mean, I was very impressed with this young man. A really nice young man, has a great attitude. His brother's a very nice guy as well, and a very good player. And I mean, I'll tell you, like if you were on the fence and going, well, especially like a player that wants a professional level guitar, maybe can't afford, some of the ones that we've talked about previously, and wanted something that was all carved, beautiful. I mean, I would look no further than Darcy. He'll make your guitar last you the rest of your life. I mean, his guitars are great.
Well, I have no reason to doubt that.
Yeah.
It certainly the photo. I unfortunately I didn't get a chance to play that one, but Ted, I totally respect your opinion. And
Well, you'll get a chance. Are you going to the Woodstock show?
I am not. Mm-mm.
No, I'm not. I'm not either. But I'm sure at some of the shows, I'm sure he's going, because this was his first show,
Well,
and
a year goes by quick, and he'll probably get some commissions this year, build some instruments, and
Mhm.
I will, based on this conversation, I will make absolutely dead certain sure that I get by and check out what he's doing. You know, we've been at this a long time today.
Absolutely.
We we're gonna make this a 15-minute thing, and we're rocking on it, but the bottom line here is that your your top five things that you look for in an archtop guitar are what?
Okay. Well, it really comes down to the top two things, you know.
Oh,
But number one, the sound. Number two, the playability. So it's, I mean, to me, the guitar's got to sound right. Now, there are different types of archtop guitars. There are certain archtops that are made more for the fingerstyle player or made more for the more modern player. I'm kind of a straight ahead jazz guitar
let's
player.
talk about that.
So the
For
thing,
you, what are the top five things that you look for?
so the five things that I have to say that I look for is number one, the playability. So I got to be able to execute my stuff on it. So like the way, just the ability, the instrument being able to be responsive and
Right.
keep up with what I'm doing. You know, crossing the strings, you know, the separation of the notes, all of that's really important. The overall sound quality. If the guitar is too like for instance, Darcy's guitars are focused, and a lot of jazz players want a focused sound. They want that, you know. So I listen for focus, but I do also like a little bit of overtone. I
Right.
don't like it just completely dry and only just focus and no overtone. I like something sort of in the middle. So
Right.
that's what I'm looking for in the tone quality. I want a little bit of overtone and good focus. Number three, you know, the overall the way the guitar feels in my hand. Is it too heavy? Is it neck heavy? Is the body, does it feel balanced? You know, like when I pick up the guitar and like if I start to play, is the volume and tone control in my way?
Mhm.
Things like that. The ergonomics of the instrument itself, or if the pick guard not feel like it the way it's supposed to. Those kind of things are important to me. Um, and then, you know, also, you know, and I would say might be the third thing is the practical stuff.
Right.
Like I said, the volume and tone control being in your way. You
Right.
know, plugging in to the jack, and there's you know, there's a problem because, you know, there's all kind of stuff going on there. You got you know, a tail gut and, you know, the jack, and then you're trying to hook a
Sure.
strap button to that. That's all got to be worked out. It should have a separate strap button, and should, you know,
Right.
or put the plug down at the bottom, and so that you don't have three things trying to go into one part. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, do I
All
ever?
too well, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
all too well. Hmm.
And so those kind of things that's really important to me. And then you know, of course, that would probably be my third thing. The fourth thing is like, and I know this is kind of silly, but I want to know that that maker has their own sort of individual voice. Like I don't want to look at a guitar that somebody made and it's got like a Gibson tailpiece on it. You
Right.
know what I mean? Or something that's like not really authentic to what that maker. So that's
Right.
like Darcy, all these makers that I mentioned all sort of have something that is theirs, you know,
Right.
like design of the guitar. I don't want to see like just a you know, a real generic, you know, looking arch top and then
Right.
no
I
personal thing,
yeah.
you know. So and then that all should work together, like the headstock and the shape of the tailpiece and all that should kind of go together. And then I guess the last thing is that, you know, and it's really important for me, is that the guitar's got to sound great plugged in.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to sound just as great plugged in, you know. So, and it's some makers, that's an afterthought, you know. They think about that the, you know, the guitar, you know, is an acoustic instrument. It's got to sound great acoustically. But
Right.
man, you know, if you're going to play it on a gig, you got to plug it in,
Yeah.
you
Plug
know.
it in.
Those are, I would say those are the top five things.
Okay. Let me make a note. Put a footnote on this and say that you never mentioned anything about the aesthetics, the finish, color, any of that stuff, the inlay, the gold, none of that. So all the things, and to your credit, everything you talked about is how does it play, how does it sound, how do I interact with the instrument? I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ted, I was gonna dive. I could dive off in about 6 different subjects that we're into. We could be here the rest of the day because I really do enjoy talking about guitars. But
Me too.
yeah. I've got. Speaking of focused tone, this is a Thorell.
Oh,
It's about as focused an instrument as you'll ever.
very focused. I should have mentioned Thorell. His instruments are very focused, and I actually really like his instruments. They're very focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean. I was just thinking about all these different voicing, and that was part of the design of that guitar on purpose. He does a lot of different things. But anyway, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
I really
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Just before we go, what's next up for you?
Well, I have a really busy month coming up with a lot of gigs. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of traveling, but then next month I'm in the studio I'll be playing at Rudy's in Nashville on the 4th, but that's like kind of a precursor to going into this, several days of recording.
Right.
So I'm doing a new record with Joel Fromm, one of the best tenor players on the planet. Danny Gottlieb, who's the former drummer of Pat Metheny Group, and Pat Coyle, and Jacob Jezro. So we're going to be doing a quintet album that we're going to actually get finished all of the tracking for that new album. It's my album.
Right.
And then also I'm in the middle of doing some duo projects with Joel and with Pat Coyle. So we're going to do like some with me and Pat, which will be guitar and piano kind of. I mean, you hate to make comparisons of the, Jim Hall and Bill Evans stuff, but because but kind of in that sort of
Right.
vibe. And then also I'm going to be doing some stuff I'll get to use my 7-string quite a bit on, which will be like some duets with Joel Fromm, who's like, if you haven't heard Joel play, he's one of the top saxophonists in the world, really amazing. So I'm really excited to be working with Burton Avenue Records on these projects. And then I have True Fire coming up. I have to do 2 new True Fire courses in December, which I'm excited to do that. It's going to be really fun. And
what's interesting about you, Ted, is you're a hell of an artist. I mean, you're in your own right. Guitar player, you could just do that, but you do so many more things than that. I mean, you're a teacher, obviously, the True Fire stuff. You're a producer of shows. You're involved. I mean, more, you're probably more connected than any other player I know to all the things, all the people out in the jazz guitar world. You're a very connected guy. And everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows you. And then you're also this monster player, I mean, so it's rare that those 2 guys exist in the same personage.
Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed, connecting with different musicians and artists, and so I have a concert coming up next week with Adam Larson, who's a great tenor player, and he's going to come in and we're going to do the series. I just had Jocelyn here to do some stuff. We had a real blast. I just had a great time with not just playing but hanging and eating and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, no,
and that's all part of the fun, is not just the playing but
I've got her queued up to to do an interview with her, so I'm looking forward to that.
Sure.
Ted Ludwig, Bob Baker for Jazz Guitar Today and podcast. Again, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe. It's free. Like, share, follow. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Please tell your friends. It does make a difference if you do all that stuff. And guys like, Ted, to keep this puppy rolling. I will say I loved Ed Cherry's comments the other day when I interviewed him. We actually that the role of jazz guitar in the world is coming up. and we were very proud of that. He said the gigs in New York are better than pre-pandemic, levels. And he said that, it's definitely, the respect for jazz guitar in the music world is definitely on its way up, and we're so happy that that's going on. So please like, share, follow, subscribe, all those things that you do on all of the social media.
And,
Ted,
and
thank you so much,
can I say
man.
one quick word?
Sure.
If you're wanting to try these instruments out, for yourself, please come to the show, to the Rocky Mountain Archtop show in 2024. Peter's expanding the show to an extra day,
Yeah.
and so if you have, and you'll get to meet all the great players. I mean, everybody's there. And so it's really, come out to the show next year as well.
As they used to say in the 60s, be there or be square.
That's right.
All right, man. Thanks, Ted. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Bob Baker, Ted Ludwig, Jazz Guitar Today. Talk to you later, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.